I was wrong. The Vols win 24-17 against Alabama.
Milroe, DeBoer, put the fries in the bag.
This is the PCS Volcast. I am Shea, and this is Jace. Today we're going to be going over our thoughts from the Alabama-Tennessee game, the M and L VPs, the key takeaways, and how our predictions held up. So let's start with our thoughts.
Well, actually, before that, I want to give a few shout-outs. We've had a lot of people help us with this podcast. First off, Owen Jacobs and Tim Dieterman have done our intro music. They're a part of the Jackson Avenue. We're going to put their Spotify down in the comments. They're a really good band, really good music. Second of all, Gabe Knight is letting us use his video and camera setup. He's an intern for the Tennessee football team. He does videos for them. They're really cool. You can find him on Instagram. And third of all, congrats to Shea Barker, who just got engaged this past weekend. Super big. I know you probably didn't want me to bring that up, but super big for them.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
It's very cool. But let's get to the game.
All right, yeah. So let's start with your thoughts.
Yes. So the biggest, I guess, surprise to me, I guess we're jumping ahead already, but we lost the turnover battle 3-2. They beat us in time of possession, and we still won the game. I mean, I would have never thought that would have even been possible.
Yeah, I want to say something real quick.
Yeah.
I guess coming into this game that was going to happen. All those things were going to happen. And like you said, I'm just surprised that we came out with the W. Right. It was like I expected all those things to happen and then for us to lose.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't expect those things to happen, I didn't expect for those things to happen, and I expected a much higher scoring game. We'll get into how our predictions held up later, but and I was wrong too. I pretty much said in the previous episode that I don't see us winning like a sloppy battle, a low scoring battle, and we did.
Yeah.
Hats off to our defense. Hats off to Heupel and the O-line. I thought they really improved this game, and Nico did as well. But I'm going to start with Alabama as we get into the game here. I was very surprised about how Kalen DeBoer kind of called this game. In the previous episode, I was talking about how they need to run the ball more, stick with the run, and not force these force feed Ryan Williams the ball, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
He had 20 targets in this game. He had 8 catches for about 72 yards at face value and a touchdown. Face value, that seems okay, but for 20 targets, I mean, that's a lot of missed opportunities where you could be going somewhere else. And Jermod McCoy, I won't say locked him up, but all things considered, he did an amazing job, and we saw that basically one-handed interception in the end zone. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was awesome.
But yeah, I thought DeBoer was, again, too reliant on Ryan Williams, kind of too reliant just on Jalen Milroe in general. And I know that Alabama might not have a lot of other guys other than Ryan Williams on the outside, but you still got to have faith in them. Bernard had a few big plays. Kendrick Law only had a few opportunities. And I also thought that Bama should have used Justice Haynes and Jam Miller more in the pass game. They actually only got 20 carries combined, which I think is a crime. I will say, we were doing really, really well on our run defense. But still, I think they abandoned the run too early, and they went to Ryan Williams too much. In that third quarter, I know we're going a little out of order here, but in that third quarter, they went back to the run, and they had a really good sustained drive, and then we got them to 4th and 1. I was convinced they were going to do that delayed QB sneak where the line pushes forward, Milroe kind of goes vertical, and then he runs around, but they punted. I thought that was a horrible decision by DeBoer.
I do think that could have gone either way, and I want to say they tried to establish the run game. You saw a lot of runs by Bama on 1st and 2nd down. It was just not going anywhere. And like you said, they had the one good drive after halftime where they started, near their 10 and ended up getting, to the 40 near the 50, and like you said, they punted, but that was the drive that they used their running backs and they used Milroe.
Exactly, yeah.
They only ran the entire time.
That was their first drive coming out of half because we had to punt and we pinned them on their 6, and then they were moving the ball, like really moving the ball. That was probably the best they had moved the ball the whole game up to that point. And Jam Miller run, Jam Miller run, 4 Jam Miller runs in a row, Milroe run, Haynes, Milroe, and then a punt on 4th and 1.
Yeah, so I think they were trying to balance that out throughout the game, and it just so happened to be working for some reason on this specific drive. But I don't know. It felt like they were trying to. It just was not working because our defense was locking them up. It was awesome to see.
I don't really consider that a balance. Like when you do all runs and then the next drive, it was a little bit more balanced. That was the other good drive they had that ended in a field goal. But yeah, I mean, our defense played above and beyond what I thought they would. Because at the end of the day this season, I think we're going to say this Alabama offense is probably top 5, at least top 10 in the country, where they don't have penalties like they did in this game or just horrendous screw-ups, interceptions, whatever. We know they can score. We just do. They've scored a lot of points in previous games. I mean, Georgia, who just held Texas to 15. And if you want a breakdown on that game, we're going to post a video later this week talking about all the SEC matchups. But yeah, Georgia held Texas to 15, and Alabama put up, 42-something points on Georgia. So our defense was immaculate this game. But also, shout out to the Neyland crowd last night. I mean, obviously this is one of our biggest rivalries, and the crowd really showed that. I think, they had a few penalties, some false starts, a few delay games, and we made them burn a timeout as well. That I give that all up to the Tennessee, to the Vol Nation, I guess.
Yeah, Neyland played a big part last night. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to hit on our defense. So I'm very proud of our defensive line. They were able to just stop those 2 running backs. We were calling them the two-headed monster coming into the game, and they didn't play like that at all. And what I will say is that I was a little bit disappointed by our secondary. I want to admit that we got bailed out by Milroe. I'm going to go into Nico later, but Milroe was missing just as much, if not more than Nico. There were just some moments where Milroe, he looked like a totally different quarterback than what we've seen from him this year.
They didn't really have a lot of deep shot opportunities. Tim Banks played zone most of the game, a huge majority. But he turned out to be 100% correct. Man, give this man a raise because we don't want he's been with us since 2021, and I think that the depth of our D line is making him look a lot better, I guess, than he's been showing these past few years. But he called this game to perfection. He knew that it was going to take some accurate Milroe throws to beat us this game, and we saw in the first few drives, definitely in the first half. When Ryan Williams did that deep in or just routes similar to that, Miller just couldn't hit him very accurately. They could have been caught. Williams got both hands on the ball, but it was dropped, and it was just not the best throw. So hats off to Tim Banks this game. He really locked in on the design QB runs for Milroe. He completely took that away and then made him be accurate. And, I mean, we just have good players on our defense. Those 2 things really won us this game.
Yes, but I guess I'm going to be the bad cop for the defense. The penalties were extremely frustrating.
Right.
We had I think we had 2 or 3 third downs where we ended up stopping them, and then you see a PI. I mean, I believe we had 2 PIs, maybe a holding, and Boo Carter almost got us. Yeah. I almost ruined the game for us.
I almost lost my cool when that happened because go on.
I've seen the Alabama fans talking about K-Law and how mad they are. I would be furious. That is just something you can't do. And Boo Carter was just all up in his ear talking smack. But I don't know. You just can't do anything about it. And that, at least at that moment. But yeah, so our defense definitely needs to clean up a few things. We got bailed out by Milroe's bad throws. We got bailed out by him wanting to target the 17-year-old over and over and over again. They weren't able to establish the run, and that was because our defense. So, and I think that's where it all went wrong for their offense. And to be honest, I feel like we played the same. Both these teams played sloppy on offense, and honestly, I don't know if Bama's defense played all that well or if our offense was just that bad. Because we look at our defense and we say our defense played good, and that's why their offense played bad. But we look at our offense and we say, we played bad.
Self-inflicted stuff.
I don't know if their defense played all that good.
Well, I mean, one thing I will say is I noticed our receivers getting a lot more separation than in previous games. I mean, I think our Nico didn't play bad. I'm not going to say he played bad because he had some really good throws, but he also had some really bad throws. He played well enough to win. He didn't screw us over enough to lose. But I'll go back to what I was saying with the receivers. Our receivers got way more separation than Arkansas and Florida as well. But yeah, Nico had 8 just missed deep throws or something?
Let me go over that. So our quarterback and our receivers were almost never on the same page. Not like in the fact that
I don't think it was even the same page. I think it was Nico. I think Nico just missed him.
No, I'm saying not on the same page as if he's running the wrong route and Nico thinks he's going that way, but more like whenever one person would have a good moment, the other person would have a bad moment.
There were a few drops, true.
So I went through every play and found all the drops. So we had 4 individual drops by receivers that Nico, he hit them. They could have caught it. They should have caught it, and they didn't. And then we had 4 plays by Nico that he just missed. He just straight up missed. They were open. The biggest one was at, the second drive of the game where we end up, and this is after our fumble, Bama doesn't do anything either, but, you see Brazzle down the sideline. He's open. He's got separation, and Nico it's right in front of him. He misses him. The next big mess up was by Squirrel White, who ends up having 2 big mess ups in this game. But
he did not have a good game.
The exact same drive. Nico hits White, and he drops it. I mean, he tries to one-hand it. He's trying to do his best, Jermon McCoy impression, but he doesn't come down with it, and he drops the ball. And this, you just kind of start seeing a pattern. So the third drive, you see White. He goes down the field. He gets open, and then Nico misses him. So instead of White dropping it, Nico just misses him. And then you don't really see that again until about the 8th drive in the third quarter, where guess who? It's Squirrel White. He's going down the field, and that this is the one where he gets hurt, but he lunges out for it and can't come down with it and hurts himself. However, I don't remember the injury specifically, but and then again, so then you have Brew. He was wide open on for a big gain in the fourth quarter. This would have been critical. Nico misses.
That was the miss. I think Brew had 1 drop. That was super uncharacteristic for Brew.
Yeah, he did.
But yeah, I felt really bad for Squirrel this game. He had a bad game. He was kind of the Alabama killer last year. He had an exceptional game against Bama in Tuscaloosa. But yeah, he drops a few, gets hurt. He went to the hospital. This game
for his hand.
I'm not finding a lot of stuff on here. I thought it was kind of like a torso thing, or his head, because when he dropped it and then he slammed.
Yeah, it was
head.
the way he fell. Or landed, I guess.
I think we'll kind of see more news about that as the week goes on, but
yeah. So talking about Brew, like you said, he's wide open for the slant. He drops it. He just straight up drops it. It's whatever.
I was convinced, when Nico threw it, I saw it the whole way. I got up, started celebrating, and he just dropped it.
No, so if that was a 4th down, I'm not saying whatever to that, all right?
Yeah.
I'm only saying whatever to that because Samson punches it in right after. But, Brew drops a ball that he always catches, and that was in the 3rd, and then, Nico misses him in the 4th. And then in the 4th quarter, back-to-back drives, you have Brazzle drops a bomb. And then Nico misses him deep again. So it's just you saw this a lot with Joe Overthrow Milton, but he at least, I wouldn't say he hit on most of them, but he wasn't missing this often.
We talked about this a little earlier today. I think if Hendon Hooker was our quarterback, and this is completely unfair. This is just completely hypothetical, whatever. Yeah. But if Hendon Hooker was our quarterback, I think we would have won this game 42-24. Give them an extra touchdown just for more possessions because we're scoring more. We're kicking off to them more. But, I mean, we really got spoiled with Hendon's deep ball accuracy. It's low-key the best I've ever seen. Yeah. And then we go to Joe Milton, who had a terrible deep ball accuracy. And now we're with Nico, who we assume it's going to be better because Milton was so bad, and it's not very good either. I found a stat. Don't quote me on this. I'm not sure how like updated this might have been at like halftime of the game, but I saw 3 for 15 on 20+ yard or air yard passes in the past 3 games. 2 of those are touchdowns. I think the other one was that pass to Thornton at the end of the Arkansas game. But that's just not acceptable. Like, and again, in this Bama game, we got multiple times where our receivers were open.
Yeah.
You got to hit, like, if we hit 1 or 2 of those, this is a completely different game.
But breaking it down, half of those might be the receiver's fault. I'm not completely sure. But probably majority was Nico just missing.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see him miss any of those in those cupcake games at first. Actually, I mean, you did. I believe I remember one in Kent State and Chat.
But, I mean, you're not, like, those are hard passes to hit. You're not going to hit all those.
Yeah.
But you got to hit, if they're wide open, I don't know, 60, 75%, something like that. Mm-hmm. And this 3 for 15 is about 33%. So I saw a lot of Bama fans really complaining about how Milroe played. He definitely did not have a good game. I personally don't think, like, the blame, I think, is not all on Milroe. Personally, I think the blame is on DeBoer just as much as Milroe because his game plan was terrible. He didn't really adjust. Like, he tried to adjust, and then in that first drive of the second half, he was like, Like, it didn't work. Screw it. Let's go to something else. Obviously, I already said Milroe couldn't hear anything when he was trying to, check and change the play and whatnot. But also, I give a lot of credit to Milroe's bad game, to our defense, as we said, and specifically Jermon McCoy. Yeah. Like, this was his best game probably of his career. Obviously, that one-handed interception. I mean, he was flying all over the field. Like, shouldn't have even passed it to Ryan Williams, just running up the middle. But Milroe threw a bullet fade to Ryan Williams.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And then, obviously, McCoy picks it off. But, yeah, we get shut out again in the first half. Like, yeah. I don't know.
I want to say I called that. Like I said earlier, I called these things. I knew we would not be able to capitalize. The best example I can think of is when McCoy gets the interception.
Yeah, interception. Yep.
He brings it all the way down to the 50, and we do nothing.
Yeah, well, we didn't even talk about the missed field goals. That was pretty bad. I mean, they weren't like gimmies by any means. I think we should have went for it on that first field goal. In hindsight, I'll say, when we were watching the game, we said take your points because I think it was 0-0 still at that point. Take the lead early. We know, like, we don't want to get shut out again, and we know that points are kind of at a premium for us.
Oh yeah.
So we want to take our points, but we get shut out in the first half, and then in the second half, our offense is looking better. But the biggest thing, I guess maybe not the biggest thing, but something that really stuck out to me in the second half, obviously, was that like fake injury thing that Alabama had. I don't even know, like, that was just really bad because they couldn't have even substituted in the first place. We were not subbing. We were going with our tempo. And then Bama was just completely confused. And when they realized they screwed up, their first like instinct was just go down with an injury so we can stop the play clock.
Lane Kiffin is a cancer to college football. I blame him.
And we didn't even talk about in our last SEC episode how many stoppages in the LSU Ole Miss game there was.
Yeah, isn't he like averaging like 15 to 20?
And you know what? We got to be fair. We did it some too this game. Yeah, I'm not happy with that at all.
No, I was really sad to see that.
I think that there should be a rule that if you go down on the field, so like let's say you actually get injured, you hurt your ankle, if you can limp off the field, then you whatever, same stuff as in the past. But if you go down and the medical people are required to come to you, you cannot sub back in that drive because you can't just have your players go down with injuries like that.
I've heard this point before, so I only disagree because I don't want to punish the people that are actually hurt and can genuinely just come back and they're feeling better.
But it's also a precautionary thing. It does the fake injury, or prevents the fake injuries, I guess. And then it also is a precautionary for if you're actually injured. I mean, okay, in the NFL, this is a little bit different, but it's the same example. We've seen like Tua, whatever, or Josh Allen in a previous game have a head injury and attempt to come back in or something. And they don't do well at monitoring that. And for player safety, if you sit out the drive, really make sure you're okay, and then you come back in, yes, it does limit maybe some of their playing time and your chances to win, but safety should come first.
Yeah, but like say Nico went down like he did, and he had the whole staff come to him, and then he didn't finish that drive, but
Yeah, because the drive into the next play.
But if say Moore gets a first down there on that third down, and Nico's good to come back in, and then say because of this rule that Nico can't come back in, and then Moore throws a boneheaded interception. So I think the way to do it, let's do what we do with any other penalty, our opinion with our eyeballs. So this is already technically implemented in the league, but whenever you suspect a player is faking an injury, you can report it, and then they do an investigation. Obviously, they're not investigating hard enough. The warnings, Kiffin doesn't care about the warnings, and everyone else around the league is saying or is seeing that Kiffin's not getting in trouble, so we can do it too. We need to crack down on Kiffin doing all these BS injuries and start finding him or start making him, take these players out. I don't know, just make...
The problem with, being subjective about it and finding people is that sometimes it is a fine line between, if it's real or not. Because you can fake a cramp and there's no injury. You're just cramping, right? That's usually, I guess, what it is my hamstring is cramping, whatever. So that's why I think take the subjectivity out of it. It's like with reffing. We've seen some calls and Texas, Georgia, which just happened with that. That stuff needs to get ironed out. Or the Miami or Virginia Tech Hail Mary at the end.
That was crazy.
A lot of subjectivity I think you can remove by just making a rule, even if it's not really fair or it's it doesn't or it's unhelpful for teams, I guess. Just having a rule like having them be out for the rest of the drive, it takes the subjectivity out, and it just says if you're hurt, sit out, make sure you're healthy, and then boom. Because so I was watching, I think it was the South Carolina Ole Miss game a few weeks ago. Their best D lineman faked injuries 3 times, or maybe one of them was real or something. But regardless, if he's out for the drive, that's a huge hit for them. So you just can't. I don't know. It's just it's
tricky.
It's dirty, and it's
it's tough.
It's not good for the game. I mean, I know that's a cliche thing to say, but yeah.
Something's got to change. I don't care how it happens, to be honest.
But it's just embarrassing. That was the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen under an Alabama coaching staff or really anybody. The coach pushed the player, and then he fell and he injured it. It's just embarrassing,
Yeah.
Thank goodness they threw a flag on that because it was illegal substitution.
Felt like we got justice for that.
We got justice for what was actually, what the flag was actually for with the illegal substitution, but not the fake injury BS. That was embarrassing.
So what did you think about, all the penalties from last night?
Well, you mentioned Tennessee penalties, which kind of got overshadowed by how many penalties Alabama had. I'm pretty sure they had 20 penalties.
Oh my gosh.
Or 17.
That's exactly how it went in 2022.
10 penalties in the first half, 15 in the whole game. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Bama fans were pissed. And this is the least disciplined team. Obviously Saban's gone, so that's probably the reason why. And whenever I hear DeBoer talk, it's a lot of coach speak, which is whatever, it's fine. But I don't feel like he's doing the right things to help them improve. Vandy should have been a wake-up call for them. And listen, playing in Neyland, we played our defense played amazing, so I'm not going to blame it all on them, but kind of the same stuff that we've been complaining about. DeBoer was bad in this game, Milroe was bad, and their O-line was bad.
Yeah.
Same stuff.
That's what I'm saying. We both played the exact same way. I mean, each of us, Bama and us, we both had 2 PIs. Both had holding. We both just had drive killers and drive extenders.
One thing, and it's crazy that we haven't talked about this up to this point. The biggest, I guess, difference, if you look at on paper, that is not playing the same way, is Dylan Sampson. He had another amazing game.
Yeah.
I believe he's 1 touchdown away from breaking or tying the Tennessee touchdown record. He's at 17, I think, right now. Jam Miller and Justice Haynes couldn't compare anything to what Dylan Sampson did.
No, they couldn't. He did exactly what I was hoping for. I've been saying that every week, But like I've also been asking him to do more, which is just tough to ask from a guy like him. But
he's so good, and like it's in our minds that he's so good that he's like going to do this every game, and we haven't even brought him up until you know what I mean.
But this was just different. I don't know. He was. It felt like I think the biggest difference was us not running it on first and second down every single drive.
Mm-hmm.
I loved seeing Heupel come out with a different play call on first down. Loved seeing Nico try to sling it out. And then Samson, I don't know. They just weren't ready for it, and boom, 6 yards. Boom, 20 yards. I mean, it worked out really well for him.
26 carries, 139 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, it feels like I said this way early in the season. Just check him off for 100 yards.
Okay, so now Jason and I are going to go over our key takeaways from the game.
Yeah, I had 4 key takeaways for Tennessee and 1 for Bama. I'm going to just get the Bama one out of the way. This really cemented the fact. I still think that Jalen Milroe is a good player, and I still think DeBoer has room for improvement on how to use him. But this just cemented the fact you don't trust Jalen Milroe to close out games for you. Or really just intense situations. He didn't do it against South Carolina, didn't do it against Vandy, did not do it here either. And yeah, when it got bleak, he kind of folded. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the K-Law did not help him out in that last drive, but when I'm talking about misses, he missed Ryan Williams on that last drive.
Yeah.
And then DeBoer comes out and he's like, you know what? Let's just do a screen on the last play of the game.
Yeah, like a check down or something. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, you can get all your receivers to run a vertical route, and then if Milroe has to, scramble for 22. Well, he's capable.
I don't want to get like too much into this, but we saw Ryan Williams have 20 targets this game. If you're not going to target him on the last play of the game and you're going to give him 20, what are you doing?
I know. Which one is it?
We've seen him make insane catches against Georgia. I think a few against South Carolina. Just he's an insane, he's an insane player. And when you really need him the most, you don't throw to him.
Mm-hmm.
That was bewildering.
Yeah.
But anyways, on the Tennessee side, I think Vol fans, we should temper our expectations for Nico. This game kind of feels like what we're going to get on an average basis, which if it'll win its games against a good Alabama team, I'm fine with that. Obviously he got hurt. We had 3 turnovers to their 2. One of those turnovers, I'm kind of wiping the Gaston Moore pick off the board. I mean,
yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
That was just stupid. But yeah, that's a whole other thing. But he had 1 really bad interception, just run out of bounds for a yard. That was terrible. He had a lot of misses, and then he had a few heroic plays. That touchdown to Brazel was beautiful. Again, a few drops for our receivers. But I think that this is kind of the baseline, I guess you could say, for Nico. I've been backing Nico all season, and I think he's going to iron these things out for next season. But this season, this is what I expect from Nico going forward. Number 2, if our defense plays like they did in this game, and if Banks can do such a good job at physically taking away the other team's greatest strength, which in my opinion is Milroe's running ability, I think we can compete with anyone in the country.
Yeah.
It's matchup based, obviously, but Tim Banks has called an incredible defense so far this season, and I mean, we just played immaculately on the defensive side, so I was really proud of that. Our third one is we saw Heupel and our O-line get a lot better this game. I expected Heupel to bounce back. I just have confidence in him to call offensive plays better. We saw a lot less screens, as you said, more kind of downfield stuff, and even though it all didn't go the way we wanted to, we didn't execute it well, it was the right thing to call, right? I didn't really have a lot of hope in our O-line to get a lot better, especially against a really good Alabama front, but they did. They just kind of blocked better. And Nico did not look as bad as previous games we've already touched on. You might be able to attribute that to the Alabama secondary, which has been playing horrible this season.
I think we should.
But like our next game against Kentucky, they have a way better defense than Alabama does. So that's going to be a good test for Nico as well. My 4th takeaway, and this kind of sums all my other takeaways up in one, I guess, is how we look this game really kind of feels like our identity as a team. We are, 7 games right into the season. we know our defense is great and it's going to be really dominant. They've been consistent all year for the most part. McCoy looks like a lockdown corner, and we're going to play inconsistently on offense. That's just how it's going to go.
Yeah.
We have 2 really, really strong defenses left on our schedule, and we're probably going to get shut out again in the first half or just struggle to score, and that's what we need to expect going forward. We have an inconsistent young quarterback who can make insane plays, but can also just miss, standing in the pocket, no pressure. And I also kind of think we're just a bad road team. We know that we're an amazing home team. The Neyland crowd is always going to, back us up. But yeah, we did not play that well on the road. And finally, just for this big takeaway, we're a heavily penalized team, and I can see that biting us in the future in some big games.
Oh, yeah. So my key takeaways are very similar to yours, so I'll keep them a little quick. So first of all, I want to say we either stayed the same or got better in every single aspect of this game. Samson stayed the same. He did what we expected. Right. The defense stayed the same. They did what we expected. But what got better, nothing got worse. Nico was already at rock bottom. He couldn't have gotten worse. Same with the O-line. And same with Heupel's coaching.
Right.
So, and those 3 things were all better. Actually, I might want to say Nico's play stayed the same, but Heupel gave us opportunity. He finally threw away whatever playbook he was using and just kind of came out and played like a normal football team. Like we talked about earlier, way less screens. Thank you. I mean, finally. You would think that we would have gone away from that after the Arkansas game, but you saw it in Florida.
I think he realized, maybe how good Dylan Sampson is, because if we run screens to try to open up the middle of the field for Sampson to run, we don't need that. Sampson's just so good that we don't even need to do that.
Yeah.
And we saw the deep shots still be open. We didn't complete them, but we saw the deep shots still be open without having to run those screen plays. I'm still, our offense is dependent on screens. I'm still okay to run them, but we just need to do less, and we need to stop being so predictable, which is exactly what Heupel did.
Yeah, and then the defense played really well in the fact that we were able to not let Milroe get a 75-yard run on us.
We almost did, but Will Brooks
we almost
had that little
did.
shoestring tackle. Yeah.
But still, we didn't. You know, so I'm really, really proud of our guys for actually stopping the run. That was probably my, the number one thing I thought we would not be able to handle was his legs, and we did just fine. So really proud of them there. And then the penalties stayed the same. I've been complaining about penalties every single week. Heupel's obviously not able to fix them, and neither are the players. I don't know what to change, but the penalties are just, I guess, like you said, we're just going to have to get used to them. And they were really bad this game. They really were. You just can't tell because Bama's were just as bad.
Yeah, they were going crazy with penalties. And you said Milroe was bailing us out. Their penalties also were.
Yeah. And then this just goes with my first point. The run game works so much better if you're not doing it on the first down every single drive. Mm-hmm. And I want to keep seeing that. And then Heupel and the O-line gave us a chance. Samson took it, and he ran with it.
Right.
And Nico barely makes it out alive. But either way, we got that W. All right,
Yep.
So hold this big owl. All right, so like we said, we're going to go over our M and L VPs. Jace, let's start with yours.
Mine are a little bit messy, but these are just the 3 MVPs that I thought of. Number 1 was the Neyland crowd. I mean, as I said, everyone's going to pop out for an Alabama game, especially what happened last year. Will say, personally, wasn't the biggest fan of the crowd rushing the field and then the goalposts. 2 wins in 3 years. We understand the history, and we can't run away from that. But we should act like we've been here before, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But again, Heupel said it himself, and obviously the crowd had a lot to do with Milroe. I think his just play in general and his ability to call plays and check with the line. Great, just that was the best that our crowd could have done, I guess. My second MVP, I think, is UT's resilience. We've seen us get shut out 3 games in a row, and that can be really demoralizing in the locker room, but we come back out and we're resilient. Nico, helps us score more points in the second half. 24 points is a good amount of points in a half.
Yeah.
Because if you do that both
true.
halves, you get 48. That's a high-scoring game.
Yep.
But I'm proud of Nico's resilience and the whole team's resilience. And then third, this is probably a homer pick, but it's Jermon McCoy. I mean, he locked up one of the best receivers one of the best receivers in the country. Yeah, I know 8 catches, 72 yards and a touchdown is a lot. Touchdown was our Ricky Gibson, by the way, but he just had an absolutely amazing game, and he's only 19. Like we saying, Ryan Williams only 17.
He's only 19.
Did you know he's only 19?
What?
By the way. But yeah, I mean, he had a great game, and I'm really excited for him the rest of the season. I kind of want to play Ohio State. This is a tangent. I want to play Ohio State. That's probably the team we match up the worst against in the country. But I just want to see Jermon McCoy match up with those elite Ohio State receivers.
Oh yeah.
But we'll see. My LVPs. I have 2. It's Kalen DeBoer and Jalen Milroe. I just think they could have handled. Specifically, DeBoer could have handled this game better. I don't think he prepared very well for it. And I watched his press conference. He said we have to look inward about 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? Does that mean the play calling? Does that mean your identity?
Yeah. Were you not looking inward after the Vandy game?
Exactly. Kalen DeBoer is an offensive coach, and he doesn't really have his defense to lean back on this year. So he's got to I mean, he has one of the best players in the country, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. And then Milroe missed a lot, as we said. He's still not the best decision maker. And yeah, this really tanked his draft stock probably. And I would assume his Heisman chances are pretty much done with.
Yeah, after this game for sure.
After this loss, Bama goes down to number 15 in the AP poll, which, by the way, is the lowest they've been since 2010.
Shout out my fiance for giving us that stat.
Yes. Shay, how about you? What are your MVPs and LVPs?
Yeah, so I want to start with the bad. Let's look at my LVPs. First of all, it's the penalties. I'm going to continue to say it every single week. They're awful. I don't know what to do. I don't even know what to say. I'm mind blown each week by our penalties. We got bailed out in the fact that Bama is just as bad with theirs. So
I think they're the most penalized team in the country. Well,
really?
Unfortunate for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
My other LVP would have to be Gatson Moore. What was that? Please never come back onto the field again. And then my third LVP would be Milroe. He had a lot of chances. He kind of played the same way as Nico, but had almost 20 more passes.
Right.
He just looked bad. We've talked about that plenty. And then, all right, so my MVPs. Heupel, okay? I want to give it up for Heupel and Tim Banks. I think they called an amazing game on Saturday. And, Heupel just for sure. I know 24 points doesn't sound like a lot, but you got to factor in all those Nico misses.
Right.
Say Nico doesn't miss on any of those passes, then Heupel is a genius.
Yep.
He called up maybe 5 or 6 touchdown bombs, dude. I mean, he was figuring out what was working against their defense, and it was all about Nico executing it, and he just didn't always. So
to tie your LVPs and MVPs together, I think Heupel called damn near a perfect game, except the Gaston Moore play should have never been a pass. I mean, come on, that's just crazy.
It could have worked. It could. I can see the vision.
Sure, it could have worked, but like the best case scenario, I don't even think the best case scenario is a touchdown because
True.
It's just not very likely your backup's going to come in and throw a touchdown. Worst case scenario is exactly what happened. Just run the ball. Dylan Sampson is already playing well for you. Run the ball once. Shoot, there our screens will work. I mean, they throw screens every day in practice. Just throw a screen.
Yeah, you know what? You are so right about that. Why did we not just throw a screen, the Heupel special? And, I hate screens, but in that situation, that's better than, throwing a pick and then having the guy return it to the 50.
Yeah.
But a punt would have been better there. I mean, almost anything would have been better there.
That was a pretty game-changing play, at that time. So that was really the only blemish on Heupel's play calling, in my opinion. But go on.
And yeah, so the other MVP would be Dylan Sampson. That's an easy pick. He just looked really good in this game. Besides his fumble, I don't even care. All right.
Yeah, that was honestly during that first drive. That was, if you ranked every possible scenario, that was dead last.
Yep, him fumbling.
It was touchdown, a touchdown for Tennessee, second to last, and Dylan Sampson fumbling, very very bottom. I thought Nico would have fumbled or just a punt something. But yeah, first fumble of his career, by the way.
But yeah, I mean, overall, just a very exciting yet shocking game. This was not what we were expecting. Jason and I's predictions, well, mine resembles that, but I mean, we're going to get into that later. But honestly, an extremely stressful game.
Well, if Shea is our chief editor. If you can flash up a picture of us right here, we were stressed, as you can see. But I think the whole fan base was stressed. But that just shows the importance of this game. I mean, it was like I really think we should be more positive. This was a huge win.
Yes,
this kept our SEC championship and playoff hopes alive. We have, the two toughest games left in our schedule is Georgia. We can afford to lose to Georgia. We don't want to, but we can afford it. And then Vanderbilt. I never really thought our season would come down to playing against Vanderbilt, but this year I think it's going to. They're finally ranked. It's in Nashville. That's going to really have a lot of weight. And they're going to be hungry to win that game.
Yes. I want to say I was in a really bad place as a Vols fan after the Arkansas loss and going into the Florida game and coming out of the Florida game. And I was in a really just bad place when I was thinking about this game. And, like I've said a few times in this episode, I was correct with some of the things I said, and we still came out with a win. But I want to be just positive from now on. I think the positivity is what made us win. I'm superstitious. You should have been there last night. We were, every single thing we could have thought of, we were doing in order for the Vols to win. So you can go ahead and thank us down in the comments. But, yeah, I want to be a better fan. I'm going to be – I guess I just want to apologize for my behavior these past 2 weeks.
Your behavior.
I have been just really, really negative with the Vols. And, I want to say this. Before the game started, I decided to change my attitude. Not after the game, okay? So – and that's how it's going to be going forward. And I hope our team, kind of thinks the same way too, honestly.
Giving a little, I guess, preview. We just previewed Tennessee's schedule. Giving a little preview for Alabama quickly. They have 5 games left, only 2 of which I really can see them losing, possibly. It is not Missouri. I think they will destroy Missouri because I don't think Missouri is that good.
Yeah.
At LSU is going to be tough. I think they're going to lose that game.
Yeah.
LSU and Garrett Nussmeier at this point looks like the best quarterback in the SEC.
Yep.
And LSU's just kind of been on a pretty good roll. And then the second game is the Iron Bowl. That's in Tuscaloosa, but that game never goes how you expect. Auburn can play like crap all year and then just play amazing against Alabama and win.
I think
Auburn should have won the – sorry to cut you off, but Auburn should have won the Iron Bowl last year.
Yeah.
And then, the Peyton Thorne effect came into play. Yeah, that was crazy.
Well, they've had a lot of games like that this year as well.
Right.
Looking back, there's like 2 games they should have won, and they just – yeah, the Peyton Thorne effect. Is it all him? I don't know. But
no, it wasn't. I mean, the defense had like the most catastrophic bust of all time.
Yeah.
And Milroe just threw a little. I think it was actually Kendrick Law, a corner route, back corner of the end zone at least.
Yeah.
And then Peyton Thorne followed up, game-winning drive. This would be Iron Bowl history. Throws an interception. I've actually picked 6, I think, on the first play of that drive. But anyways, I looked on the All-State playoff predictor. And if Alabama loses to LSU, they're still projected to get in the playoffs, which is typical Alabama, bias for the playoff. But we'll see. But yeah, not an easy road for them yet either. And Tennessee's playoff hopes stay alive, assuming we win out, except for Georgia, possibly.
Yep. So now we're going to look back at the predictions we had made before the game, and we did this through the PCS. Now, if you don't know, the PCS is a way for you to predict Tennessee Volunteer games. Very simple. It's very easy and fun. You just go to the website, you click on the game you're going to predict, you predict it, and you'll get a PCS score. Now, the lower the better. A 0 is a perfect score, and as you can see, Jason and I did not get perfect scores.
No.
I had predicted 35 to 14, and I'm not making this up. I meant to write 31 on the last episode. I accidentally wrote 35.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm just going to take it, and Jace predicted 30 to 27.
By the way, he predicted Bama to win in this prediction. I predicted Tennessee to win.
No. All right, so anyway, as you can see here, our points. I came out with a 130 PCS score, which grades out to a B. So I had a B prediction. Not too bad.
The 14 was pretty good.
Yeah, the 14 was close. And Jace had a 78 PCS score, which came out to a B+.
I thought my prediction was way worse than it actually was. I mean, 30. Well, we got 24, so that wasn't really that far away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how my prediction went. The biggest thing that I said last week was there is no way we can win I already said this, but a tight kind of wrestling boxing match with Alabama, and that's kind of what we did. So I'm gonna predict that way in the future for all the rest of the games. Just a little preview, I guess, for Kentucky.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a lot of points scored in that game, I assume. So definitely going lower scoring for that one. But.
And so, we've been doing this all 7 games, and so far, when you add it all up, I'm looking at 981, which on average is around 140 PCS points and a B- grade. And Jace is about 127 points on average, which is a B. So we're pretty close. We'll see how this Kentucky game goes, and we'll see if I can, really just shoot up. Maybe predict a 0.
I don't know about that, buddy. We have 5 more games left. Yeah. So
but
you got a little bit of time to catch up.
But anyway, so you could do the exact same thing that we did. It's just as easy as it seems. You go to thepcsonline.com and you go find the game and you click in your score. Get your friends to do it and, compare and see who has the best prediction, because I know you're predicting before the game, but now, put your money where your mouth is, all right?
Exactly, yep.
And so to wrap things up here, Jason and I are going to be putting out a SEC cast video, which is us going over how our predictions went for every single SEC game, because we also predicted all those scores. We're going to go over how that went, and we're going to go over how each team moved in the AP poll and just see where they landed at.
Yep.
And how we see their season going forward. So please stick around and check out that video. Thank you so much for listening. This is the PCS Volcast. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe and like this video. I am Shea, and this has been Jace.
Go Vols!
Go Vols!